Hi, my name is Maceo Lewis, and welcome to my movie review channel, ML Movie Reviews. Today I'm going to talk about Sinners. Now, Sinners, I actually saw it twice. I saw it first on opening night in IMAX at the theater over in Vegas. I was out in Vegas over the weekend, and I saw it again today in Dolby over at Topanga. Actually, today in Topanga, there was like some technical issues with the projection, so I thought they were going to cancel the movie. In fact, they told us to leave, but then when we were getting in line to get our refund, or in my case, getting my AMC A list restored, the guy at the counter said, "Oh, they fixed the recording," so we went back to the theater, we being the crowd, and watched the movie. So, did I like it better the second time? Absolutely. I like this movie even better the second time I saw it. Um, Now, so this movie, of course, like when you see movies nowadays, you're gonna see Marvel characters pop up. Always, like I'm a big Marvel comic book movie fan in general, so I'm always aware of the actors who have appeared in Marvel movies. And so in this movie, obviously features Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, Kate Bishop from the Hawkeye series. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I think it's pronounced Wunmi Mosaku. She's the one that plays B-15 in Loki. She also appeared in Deadpool and Wolverine as the character that was really attracted to Peter, the Peter in the Deadpool suit. And I didn't know this, but apparently Delroy Lindo, I have to look this up, but Delroy Lindo was in the Marvel thing, something called Marvel's Most Wanted. I don't think I ever heard of it. It's apparently a spinoff from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he played a character named Dominique Fortune, but I've never seen it, so I wasn't aware of that until I just looked it up today. But yeah, Sinners, it's a horror genre. It's a lot of gore, there's tension. Mostly this movie's about music. I'm going to get to that later. But it has good characters, good character development, good dialogue. Like I said, this is more like it's a vampire movie, but it's more about the music. And it's obviously a period piece. If you look at the trailers, you'll see that it kind of looks like a period piece, but it's basically a 1930s piece. Before I get into spoilers, I'll point out something that might help you if you haven't seen the movie. So yeah, Michael B. Jordan does play two different characters that you see in the trailer, and one thing that might help is if you know ahead of time who is what, like what their names are. You pick it up in the movie, but it took me a second round in the second viewing of the movie to remember who is what. Because I actually forgot who the one who got killed. Oh, well, I'm not gonna get to that. But basically, um, Smoke is the one dressed in blue, and Stax is the one dressed in red. So they make a clear distinction between which character he's playing. Obviously, they're two different names, but Stax is the one who's wearing red, and Smoke is the one wearing blue. So that's all I'll say in the non-spoiler part. Oh, and also I want to plug my sports channel. So some of you might not know, I started a sports channel. I started like around the time of well, actually, when I went to the Lakers Pelicans game a few weeks ago, I started it then. But this is like around the time of the NCAA. So I've posted my commentary of games that I watched, and going forward, I'm gonna absolutely talk about games that I actually attend, like the Lakers Pelican game. We're gonna go see the Clippers Nuggets game four, which is coming up, I believe, this Saturday. But also, obviously, stuff that I watch on TV. Not every single thing. I'm not going to post about every single thing that I watch. But yeah, so I'm right now I'm on the NBA playoffs. So yeah, hit subscribe to my sports channel. It's called ML Sports Talk. I sent the link on my Facebook, so it should be on there. But if you can't find the link, just hit me up either on Facebook or a comment, and then I'll gladly send you the link. So anyway, spoiler warning. I'm gonna get into spoilers about Sinners. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, then hit the pause button. Go and see Sinners. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. So go and watch Sinners, and then come back and listen to the rest of my commentary about this movie. So, like as I said prior to the spoiler warning, yeah, this is a vampire. Like, look, if you ask me, is this a vampire movie? When I think of a vampire movie, does this movie come up in my head? Yes, it does. So when I think of vampire movies like Twilight or From Dusk Till Dawn, In fact, when I saw the trailers, I thought this was gonna be, basically like From Dusk Till Dawn. Yes, I do think of this as a vampire movie, but really, this movie is really about music. And what Ryan Coogler does really well in this movie, if is he tells us a story about music, like in the South, and he blends the vampire genre into it. So music is actually the MacGuffin of this movie, and the character who symbolizes that is Sammy, the cousin of the two brothers, Smoke and Stax, their younger cousin. So he's actually the MacGuffin of the movie, but this movie's really about music and how it integrates the vampire myth with like Southern culture and stuff like that. So let me get into the likes. So there's a lot of likes that I like about this movie. I'm not going to get into all of them. I'm just going to point out certain ones that stand out, and especially on the second view in the movie, it held up. So first, let me just get to the scene. Okay, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I'm referring to the scene. So basically, they're in the club. They're getting things started. There's music playing, and then Sammy starts playing in the club. And then there's a flashback right when Sammy's playing, and then it's with Slim, played by Delroy Lindo, and Sammy. And in this flashback, Slim basically tells Sammy about the history of black men in America, how the white man fed black men this white religion, and they basically didn't retain anything but the music, right? The music that was passed on from generation. So basically, it's about like the story of African Americans in America. If you don't know, African Americans, I'm not talking about all black people. Obviously, some black people did immigrate from here, but when we're talking about African Americans, the descendants of slaves, the slaves were forced here on ships, and like they were born here, bred like cattle, and basically born into slavery once they were here. But basically, what white men did was they took away their identity, their culture, even their names, and gave them new names. So everything that was like African, whatever country they came from, Africa, was gone. Now, the only thing that they retained was music, and that's where you get into soul music and stuff, and that's how that was passed on from generation to generation. So anyway, that's basically the story that he's telling Sammy at this point. And so as Sammy is playing his music, and he talks about, Slim talks about how music has this magical power, like it breaks the veil between the past and the future. And then right after that scene, this is the controversial part, you start to see people pop up like from the past and from the future. And so I remember like when I first saw that scene, immediately my take on it was that this is sort of like representative. This is more like, oh, this is not really happening in the movie, but this is Ryan Coogler's way of representing like the healing power of music, how music transcends time. So that was my initial take from the movie. But then the second viewing, especially when I remember that scene with again Slim talking to Sammy, and then that's when it breaks into it. Then I suddenly realized, no, this is not just reputational. This is actually happening in the movie. Just like vampires are actually happening in the movies, so is this scene where people are really popping up from the past. Like there was guys who's breakdancing, and I think there might have been a guy who was rapping. There was a guy, playing the drums. So it's a really beautiful scene, but it also served the story because this was the scene where you see that Sammy, you realize that Sammy has his gift, right? There's other people who sing through the movie, like Slim does, Pearline does, Remick does, but none of them have the power to basically break that veil from the past to the present that Slim was talking about. Sammy does, and it was in that particular moment where he broke the veil, and that is when we started seeing people show up from the past and the future. So that served the story because that's what caught Remick's attention, the lead vampire, the devil. That was the moment where they realized, oh, because Remick, he wants to basically connect with people that he lost with his past. There's a line of dialogue later in the movie where he basically reveals that, right? So he doesn't have that power, but Sammy does. So he wants to turn Sammy to sort of, serve that in. So I think it was very important for the story. It was the turning point in the movie. and again, it was good in terms of a representational sense as well. So what other things? I mean, I like the music in the movie. I like that music in that scene. I even like some of the music that Remick was doing. Like in particular, I'm thinking about this scene where the vampires. It was after they had turned most of the people into vampires, and they seem to be like singing like in the parking lot. And then it's Remick who's doing the singing, and he's like, the music sounds like, and pardon me if I get this wrong, it sounds sort of like Scottish or Irish. It felt like people were going to come out with bagpipes and start dancing in kilts and those. But and he was like even doing the that dance that like Chad Johnson used to do when he celebrated. I can't remember what the name of it was, but I thought it was that I was actually uh, bouncing along with the music. I thought it was cool. But yeah, the music was great in this movie. That's kind of like why I wanted to see it in Dolby. Dolby has like better sounds, and it really works in Dolby. See it in either IMAX or Dolby, but I mean, the music really really hits you with the Dolby format. Another thing I liked was Michael B. Jordan's performances. I mean, we all know Michael B. Jordan's a great actor. He portrays Smoke, who again, the guy in blue. He's sort of like the protector. He looks after his twin brother, who always seems to be getting into trouble. He's kind of like a teacher too. You see that scene where he's teaching the little girl how to negotiate. You also see a scene right after that where he's talking to Grace, the Chinese lady, and she's negotiating with him. So you kind of get a sense that there's like the history between the two characters. And my take was that he taught her how to do that. All right. So there's like that history there. And then Stack, he's the guy in red. He's kind of like the wild card, the wild one. He's always like getting into trouble. Now I noticed that, and plus also Stack, he's the one. So Smoke is more like the business type. He's more like about the bottom line. Look, we need to make this, or we're not going to make it. Whereas Stack, he's more relaxed, and he's more like, hey, like let's meet people where they're at. You see that scene. There's a dialogue during the club scene where they're having issues financially, and there's one guy who paid partially in dollars and partially in some other currency and like Stack knew that, hey, look, we have to like ingratiate ourselves. We have to kind of meet people where, not just like say, oh, well, you don't have the money, so bye, leave. I was like, no, you have to sort of build rapport with people. And so it's like Stack is like one of those, whereas like Smoke was like thinking, well, we're going to go out of business if we keep doing it like this. So anyway, and that of course leads to Haley Steinfeld's character. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she actually goes out and sees talks to the who we know are vampires, but she didn't know, because they said that they had money, so they needed the money from these people who said that, hey, we want money, we want to spend, we want to enjoy your music and have a good time. That was her motivation for going out, because of the financial issues that they were having in the club. So, and again, going back to Michael B. Jordan, it was a great performance. And yeah, there's a clear distinction between who Smoke is and who Stack is, both visually with the colors and also by their character. Now I noticed that Smoke was the one that was firing the gun. Like he fired the gun at the two people that were trying to steal from him in the truck, and then obviously fired it at the vampire Haley Steinfeld after she kills or turns his brother. And obviously, later in the movie when the vampires come in, I don't remember Stack firing the gun at all. He may have carried a gun, but like I don't remember him firing. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'll see it again to see if I can look out for it and see if I ever see Stack firing a gun. But I just noticed that Smoke was at least mostly firing a gun at a minimum. He may have been firing it the whole movie, not Stack. The door invite scenes I thought were really good. It again established the rule, and I'm gonna get to some of the negatives that has to do with the invitation thing. But it really, that was the point where it obviously established the rule where, the part of the vampire myth is they have to be invited into the club or the building, and Coogler borrows that myth in this movie, and but I thought the scenes were funny how they played out. And it showed like for instance where Haley Steinfeld, her character, she walks in but like when she first sees Cornbread, he kind of like lets her in, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I know you. You're the little girl from." And then she's like, "Oh, you're gonna get me in?" And she comes in, and then later on, after she's turned, he basically does the same thing. Like he basically invites her back in. So that's how she, when she was turned, was able to get back into the club. And then also with later on with Cornbread, after he's turned, that scene where they start to piece together that something's not right here. I thought that whole scene was good. One of these there was like some homages to this movie that really stuck out to me. I remember 1982 John Carpenter's The Thing. There's this famous scene in that movie where if you don't know The Thing, go watch that movie. It's so good. But it's a horror sci-fi horror movie where basically there's a point in the movie where the Thing, it's like this creature that it's an alien creature that basically obviously kills human beings, but it's able to mimic human creatures. So when you're interacting with people, you don't know whether those people are the Thing or not. And there was this scene in The Thing where they came up with this test to decide whether the person was really a human being or whether it was this thing. And it was a really intense scene. It's very iconic. There was an homage to that later on in this movie in Sinners, the scene with the garlic where they're trying to figure out if one of them are vampires, and so they established in the movie that garlic hurts the vampire when I forgot her name, but the one who plays B-15 in the Marvel universe. She throws garlic at Stax, and he runs out because it hurts him. So all the characters are basically having to taste the garlic to figure out if they're a vampire or not. And so I thought it was like a homage to the Thing. It doesn't play out the same way as the Thing, but it was kind of like one of those. It was kind of like a fake scene because you if you've seen the Thing, you think, oh, one of them is going to be a vampire. Then they kind of played on that with Delroy Lindo's character, but I thought that was a good homage. Now the character decisions in this movie. Now a lot of times in these movies, some of the characters just make dumb decisions, and you're like, why would you do that? Like, well, who would really do that in this situation, right? Or they make decisions that's like inconsistent with the character. It kind of seems like a lazy way of getting to the next part of the movie, to moving the plot along. But here, like I actually thought that some of the characters, although they were wrong, you understand why the character did what they did. What I'm referring to is the scene. It's sort of tragic in a way. The scene where they kick the people out of the club, right? So this is the scene where Stax was turned. They think he's dead, and they basically tell Slim, Delroy Lindo's character Slim, to basically tell people to leave, right? That's something normally that you would do. Like if something went down like that, there was like a either accident or a murder. It's like, look, party's over, everybody needs to go, and that totally made sense. But what's tragic about it is they didn't know this. They basically sent those people out to their deaths because all the people who were in that club, they got turned by the vampires who were outside. Jack O'Connell character and the Klansmen they had turned, and probably Haley Steinfeld too. They all basically killed those people and turned them into vampires. So if they hadn't left, if there was more people inside and they didn't invite the vampires in, they probably would have survived the night, and those four vampires would have, and probably Cornbread at the time too. But basically, there would have been a small amount of vampires outside, and they would have, been eaten up by the sun unless they found cover somewhere. But that advanced the story because now these people who thought they were, doing the right thing, leaving this club, they became vampires, and now these hordes of vampires are surrounding this club. The other one was Grace. So Grace, like they established earlier in the movie, Grace is the Chinese lady. They showed her daughter there, so you saw the scene with her daughter, and then so you understand her motive for the vampire, her husband, who again he was one of the people who basically was leaving, trying to get the car and tell her to go. Like he was like trying to say, hey, look, if you don't come, we're gonna go get her. And so, I mean, I'm not a parent, but I can understand. Like as a parent, she, was protective of the daughter, and she didn't want them to go and turn her daughter. And so that's why she ended up inviting them in. Now they could have. I'm glad they didn't come up with some stupid reason for having someone invite them in, but that actually made sense to me. It was an emotional decision. They were trying to get at Smoke. His brother was trying to get at him, relying on their close relationship, his protective relationship over Stack. But I mean, and people had to hold him back too to prevent him from either stepping out into the vampires or inviting them in. But I mean, that the Grace couldn't. She was like, no, like basically she was like, I'd rather take them on head on rather than risk the vampires going to get her daughter. So that made complete sense to me, even though again it was probably the wrong decision, but it just made sense. Now the scene at the end where Smoke is killing the Klansmen, to me, I mean, I took it as initially I took it as like cathartic, right? It reminds me of Tarantino a little bit, like with Inglourious Basterds, when basically the Jews are hunting Nazis and they're killing Nazis, and even kills Hitler in like a theater or something, like completely rewrites history. But at the same time, it's sort of cathartic to see Nazis getting killed, or see Klansmen in this movie getting killed. I mean, that's the way I took it. But at the same time, rewatch the movie. It's a ending to the story from where it began, right? Because at the beginning of the movie, Stax and Smoke, they left Chicago. They probably thought that they were going to live a better life getting out of this racist South, but when they go to Chicago, they realize that it's just as racist as the South. So that's why they went back to the South, because that's the devil that they know, right? And so that's when they meet the Klansman guy who sells them the property. And so there's a line of dialogue where Remy, the lead vampire, he says, yeah, like this club wasn't going to last. Because he knew from the Klansman that he killed, who was related to the Klansman guy, he was like, yeah, they're going to come and basically take over and kill you guys anyway. And there was a story that Delroy Lindo's character told about this guy who had come up with some money. He was about to go, I forgot what he was doing, but basically going to start a business, and the Klan found out that he had money. So they made up this story about him raping a white woman, and then not only did they take the money, he strung him, lynched him, and castrated him. I mean, that's how they did it in the South, right? And so that's sort of like, basically it's like, yeah, let's see these Klansmen get it, but also it ties back into the beginning of the movie, and it pays off that line of dialogue that the Remick had revealed to them that, hey, look, the Klansmen was going to kill you anyway. And so by that point in the movie, Stack, he had lost his brother, and he's a soldier, and he was like, you know what, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to take these fools out, before that. And that's what he did. So I was even more fine with the scene the second time I saw the movie than the first time. Now the negative, so this is not a perfect movie. Even with a second viewing, there was certain things that I was like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And let me point out a few. Now I was talking about how the invitation worked. So it was kind of inconsistent, because it seemed like, okay, once someone from inside invites the vampire can come in. We saw that with the scene with Haley Steinfeld. But she left the bar, the club. But does that mean she could come back in since she was already invited? Well, it seems to be saying no. Maybe they have to be invited again, because she wasn't able to come back in until Grace had invited them all in. Okay, so that's the rule, then that's the rule. But the problem is they were inconsistent with the rule, because after Grace had invited the vampires in and then she, basically gets burned when she's freeing her husband from the vampire curse, and she gets burned up. Then Jack O'Connell's character, the Remick, he comes in, right, and he gets shot up and stuff, and I think he takes out one of the extras or whatever. But then at some point he leaves the house, right, and so we see him come back in when Smoke is trying to get his cousin out with Pearline, right? He was trying. They went upstairs and said, "Hey, jump, get out the door, run!" And then the Remick, he enters that door from the outside. So I was like, well, wait a minute, like, well, he wasn't invited back in again. So that's where I was like a little bit confused as to how this rule works. Like, okay, if you invite a vampire in, can they just come in at any time that they want? And if the answer is a no, well, then why was Remick able to come back in after he left? So that part still doesn't quite make sense to me. Secondly, they seem to kind of like add more extras in that scene. So I'm talking about the scene where after they did the garlic test and Grace, she hears again that they're threatening to go after her daughter. She you know, loses and invites all the vampires in, and Remick hears that. So right before that, you see that there were clearly five of the main characters, and let me see if I can name them. There was Smoke, there was Sammy, there was Slim, Daryl Lindo's character, there was Grace, the Chinese lady, Pearline, she was the married woman who was into Sammy, and there was Annie, Big B15, the one who knew about vampires and the garlic and stuff, right? So there were six people, and then all of a sudden there's one extra guy that pops up. Like the guy had no dialogue at all. I kind of had to notice him the second time I saw the movie, right? So he had no dialogue, but I saw him before the vampires, and I was like, okay, that's seven. But then when the vampires actually start breaking in, you clearly see that there was like three or four vampires jumped on three or four different people, and they actually bit them and were starting to kill and turn them. Now, none of the three, one of the three or four might have been the extra. I'll give them that, but it wasn't Sammy or it wasn't Annie. It wasn't Slim. It wasn't any of the people that we knew who had lines of dialogue. So it felt like they added more extras in that scene of side characters that had no dialogue that weren't even in the scene before that. So I thought that was a little bit off there. Other bad thing about the movie, I mean, the trailer kind of spoiled what happened to these characters. Like you saw in the trailer that Mary, that's who her name was, Mary Haley Steinfeld's character. She was a vampire as well as Cornbread. So you already knew that they were gonna turn. It was just a matter of when. And so, like when you see the scene where she comes back after talking with Remick and the two Klansmen, I mean, you already knew that. Okay, that was the scene where she returned because plus Remick had jumped up and you know, basically attacked. But if you hadn't seen that in the trailer, they could have played it to where you still weren't sure whether she was turned or not because the way that she came in and was invited back into the club, it was basically the similar scene of when she entered the club before when she wasn't a vampire. But and then Cornbread, of course, like when he went out and had to urinate, and then when he came back, you already knew he was turned because of the trailer. So they could have played off of that and kept you guessing. But anyway, that's just a minor nitpick. And obviously, you knew that one of the brothers was going to be turned from the trailer. So there was that. I don't think the twin angle served the story. I tried to look back at this movie and say, okay, the decision to have the brothers as twins, obviously you want to take advantage of Michael B. Jordan's talent and I'm sure he wanted to play the role, both roles. So obviously he's a talented actor, and it didn't take me out of the movie, like say a movie like Alto Nights, where there was really no reason why Robert De Niro had to play two different characters that were not even brothers. Here, yeah, obviously, right, they're twins, so of course Michael B. Jordan's going to play both roles if they're twins. But my question is, why do they even have to be twins at all? Like, why couldn't the protective one, Smoke, been like the older brother and another actor play Stax or vice versa? Right? Like what did the twin and I was thinking heading into the movies like, okay, well maybe it's going to have to serve the story in some way. Like for example, like there will be a scene where one of the brothers is turned, and then the other characters, they don't know if the brother who wasn't turned was the same as the brother who was turned. Like they could have played with it that way, but I never saw that or anything similar to that where them being identical twins helped further the story or helped with the narrative. So again, I mean, it wasn't like a negative, like, oh, I don't see this movie. Like, no, Michael B. Jordan played great as both characters. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that it just didn't seem to enhance or serve the story, as opposed to if the guys were just regular brothers that weren't identical twins. That's all. Now, I don't think that Ryan Coogler or I can't recall what studio produces the movie, but if they're going to revisit these characters in like a prequel or a sequel. I haven't heard anything on that. Maybe they did announce it. I just don't know about it, or like a TV series. But honestly, if they did, I'd be down, because I mean, I like these characters. Like I liked the dynamic between Stack and Mary, and then you see them at the end. Like clearly, Stack and Mary have been around as vampires from the 1930s to the 1990s, where the story ends with Sammy as an older jazz musician, right? And so, like to see them, like to see like their adventures between those 6 decades, I'd be down for it. Now, I mean, I'm not saying they have to do it or anything, or like you need to do this. Like, no, I mean, but if they announce that, like, hey, sign me up. I'd be down, because I like these characters. I want to see, what they went through over the last 6 decades. If there's a good story with it, obviously. Is it the best film of the year? Well, I would say so far it is. What's come out? Yeah, I mean, I really like Companion. I liked Warfare. But there's other movies that I've seen this year. But honestly, out of all the movies I've seen, and again, we're in April right now, but I think it's the best film so far. Now, whether it's going to hold up as the best film, I don't know. It just depends what comes out later this year. Mostly the Oscar nominated films mostly come out later in the year, like in November, December. But so far, I would say it's the best film of the year. Now, whether it's going to get an Oscar nom for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, I don't know. Again, that depends on what comes out later this year. But I think it should get a nomination for Best Score, assuming there's no better scores that come out this year, because the score was awesome. It was amazing. It's number one at the box office. It made about 63.5 worldwide and 48 million domestic. But the budget was somewhere around 90 million, and I don't think that's counting like advertising, marketing, and the cut that the theaters take. So it hasn't made a profit yet, and I mean, I don't know if it will, but I hope it has legs, because this is a good movie, so it's worth checking out. Look, if you want Hollywood to make good original film, and it's not like no film is purely original, right? Like every film is like influenced by something else, but it's original in the sense that it takes, again, like the vampire genre, blends it with like music, and creates something unique in itself, and has good characters, good development. So it's original in that sense, right? So if you want movies like that, I'd say go out and see it again. Tell that's your way of telling Hollywood that you want them to make these type of movies, rather than the same old stew that you get with sequel after sequel. If you want something original, tell Hollywood by going to see the movie. But it's going to have some competition next week. There's going to be The Accountant 2, which is like an action type movie. So it may the fans for that may blend in with this, but also Until Dawn, which I hear is getting good reviews. It's a horror movie based off, like, I believe, a video game. So it's probably gonna have competition with that, because it's a similar genre with horror. So I mean, I don't know, but again, I hope it has legs, and it does well, and at least makes a profit. So anyway, that's it. So subscribe to ML Movie Reviews if you want to see more reviews of movies that I watch, mostly theatrical movies. I'll post like my out of theater reactions on TikTok, but I also post it on my YouTube channel under Shorts. So definitely check those out if you don't have my TikTok. And also, again, subscribe to ML Sports Talk. That's my sports channel, where I do reviews like these about games, but I also post my quick reactions under a minute in the short section from TikTok as well. Anyway, thank you for watching, and until next time.